Okay, let's talk about a name that pretty much everyone on the planet knows: Donald Trump. He's a figure whose actions, whose words, heck, even his tweets can shape global headlines on any given day. So, how did one man become such a globally divisive figure? Let's break it down. You see, from the very beginning, his story is one of deep, deep division. For his supporters, he's a visionary, right? A leader with a bold new plan for America. But for his critics, he's a radical disruptor, someone who's just upending the entire world order. And it's this fundamental split in how people see him that really defines his whole political career.
So, if you strip away all the headlines and the totally polarized opinions, who exactly is Donald J. Trump? It sounds like a simple question, but believe me, the answer is anything but simple, and it shapes everything that follows.
So, first things first, we've got to look at his public presence. Well, it's unmistakable. It's this unique combination of style, words, and sheer influence that just forces the world to pay attention. I mean, think about it. Before he was ever a politician, he was so many other things: a real estate mogul who literally reshaped skylines, a reality TV star famous for that catchphrase, "You're fired." And then, against what felt like all the odds, the 45th president of the United States. He's a figure that people either seem to love or hate, with not a lot of room in between. So, what really defines this presence? Well, it all starts with that unfiltered communication style, which is just a massive break from political tradition. This style naturally leads to divisive words that fire up his base, while at the same time totally alienating his critics. And the end result? A truly global influence, where a single tweet from Washington can trigger instant reactions everywhere from London to Beijing. And all of this is built on a core political idea: the America First doctrine. This was the philosophy that powered his whole journey from real estate to the White House, and in the process, it completely rewrote the playbook of American politics. His path to power was unconventional, to say the least. For decades, he was building this massive real estate and branding empire. Then, in 2004, The Apprentice made him a household name. So when he launched his presidential campaign in 2016, a lot of people just dismissed it. But he won, becoming the 45th president in 2017. And this brings us right back to that core division, which honestly creates two completely different realities. His supporters, they see a fighter, somebody who's willing to say the uncomfortable things that other people are just too afraid to say. His critics, on the other hand, see someone who intentionally fuels division and, well, bends the truth to fit his narrative. So, with that America First doctrine firmly in place, the world was, for lack of a better word, rerouted. Now we're going to look at exactly how his presidency actively shifted these long-standing global relationships. And look, this wasn't some minor change. Under his leadership, the world experienced what you can only really describe as a seismic shift. All the old rules, the old alliances, suddenly everything was up for debate. This shift really happened through three huge policy reversals. First, trade wars just erupted, and not just with rivals like China, but with our own allies in Europe. Second, long-standing security alliances like NATO were openly questioned, with the U.S. demanding that allies pay more. And third, major international deals like the Paris Climate Accord and the Iran nuclear deal were just abandoned. And the impact of those decisions? It didn't just stop there. What started out as ripples at the beginning of his term, well, they pretty soon became waves, with bigger and bigger effects on economies and international stability. So let's follow those waves for a minute. Beyond all the policy papers and the news headlines, what were the real-world effects on actual people and nations all across the globe? The consequences are very, very real. We're talking about students seeing their visas and their entire futures put on the line, immigrant communities living with this constant feeling of fear and uncertainty, global markets hanging on every single tweet and speech. And maybe most importantly, leaders in allied nations are now actively rethinking their relationship with Washington. This really brings the whole fundamental debate into sharp focus. The argument for all these policies is that he's simply doing what he promised, protecting America, securing its borders. The argument against it warns that these actions are actually isolating the United States and dangerously fanning the flames of global instability. Which brings us to the final, and maybe the most important question of all. What is the unwritten legacy here? How is history ultimately going to judge this transformative and, let's be honest, turbulent era? There's a saying that I think captures his presidency perfectly. Every decision he makes, every word he says, sends shockwaves across the globe.
And really, whether you love him or you hate him, it's pretty hard to deny that he has always commanded the world's attention.
So that leaves us with the ultimate question for the history books, right? Will he be remembered as a bold leader who fearlessly reshaped the world for the better? Or will he be seen as a figure who just deepened divisions on a truly global scale? The final verdict? It's not in yet. But one thing is absolutely clear. His presidency wasn't just another chapter in American history. It was a moment that forced the entire world to reconsider the rules of power, of politics, and of influence. And the aftershocks of that moment, we're still feeling them today.